you have white people who feel like it's my job to be their spiritual, like the Negro whisperer. They try. I'm like, I'm not that. I'm not here. Sometimes I'm here. Sometimes a job is just a job. And sometimes people are here to work, make their money, and go home. And I am 100% okay with that. At this point in the job that I'm in right now, I do that. I say my advocacy offline, but not every Black person wants to be that person and needs to be that person. So when it comes to boundaries, it is okay to say, hey, look, Google is free, and I'm not in a position, nor am I comfortable educating you.
Welcome to Absolutely Not, the live podcast series dedicated to providing examples of setting personal boundaries at work and the vocabulary needed to name harm in those spaces. Thank y'all so much for being here. Your continued attendance to this space makes this community grow, and I can't thank you enough for being here. The key words for this episode are anti-Blackness, aggressive, and microaggressions. I encourage you to look up the definitions of these words and compare them to the definitions you carry with you on a daily basis. If you need help comparing, please let me know. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp allows you to connect with one of 24,000 licensed therapists in a safe and private online environment. You pay a low flat fee for unlimited therapy with your therapist. Visit www.betterhelp.com/absolutelynot for more information and to get 10% off your first month. That link can also be found in the show notes. Today's episode is titled Blackness and the Workplace. Y'all ready? I mean, I am. I'm very much so ready. And that amazing title is brought by my amazing special guest, Jessica Pharm, she, her. Jessica is a free-thinking HR professional with a background in employee relations, recruitment, training, and employment law. In 2020, she founded Blackness and the Workplace, whose mission is to empower Black professionals by providing resources, guidance, and support within a safe place to speak truth to power about the uniqueness of our shared experiences and identities. She identifies as a Black woman. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Very excited.
I'm excited. We already got a little spicy in here already. So I'm excited. I love the mission of Blackness and the Workplace. Why is Blackness different? Why did it need its own space?
That was, I always tell people the problem with the whole term people of color or this new term that we call BIPOC, the issues that I have with that is that we're all not the same. And the issues that I face as a Black woman is not the same as a Latina woman or Asian American woman or what have you. And oftentimes I feel people use the term people of color or BIPOC as a way to kind of brush or sweep under the rug the issues that are uniquely identifiable to Black Americans. And people say, oh, people of color go through this. And I'm like, yeah, but I moved through this space as a dark-skinned Black woman, heavy set, very differently than somebody who is Korean American or Latina, light skin, whatever it is. And so for me, when I created my platform, when I speak about my experiences and talk about what it's like, I have to speak from the identity for which I know best, which is being a Black woman. And so it's Blackness because that's who my audience is, that's who I target, and you have to be unapologetic about that.
I appreciate you being so very unapologetic in this space because the breaking down of you talked about being dark-skinned, being heavy-set, being all of the things that you are, those affect your experiences, especially in the workplace. When's the last time those layers have affected you in the workplace?
I mean, I think they do still exist to some degree. I've worked in jobs where I'll put it this way. For a long time, I felt like the problem was with me because I felt like, hey, I was doing everything that I was supposed to do. I went to school, I got myself an education, I got my career. I went back to school. I got all my certifications. I went above and beyond to do everything I was supposed to do. Oftentimes overqualified for many of the roles that I was doing, especially next to my white counterparts. And I found myself not being able to advance. I was dealing with, and I use, when people say microaggressions, I always like to do like this because there's nothing micro about an aggression, but I was dealing with so much bullshit from managers and from coworkers undermining me, questioning my skills and abilities. And I had to realize that it wasn't me. Like, I'm not the problem, but people have a problem with me in terms of how I carry myself, and the way I look. I move through these spaces. So there's always going to be that wherever you go. But I've learned how to better handle myself in these spaces as well.
Mm. And I love that you're talking about the handling and ensuring that you know that has nothing to do with you. Why? When did you learn that had nothing to do with you?
Oh yeah, so I love telling this story. So people always ask me kind of like, how did Blackness in the workplace started? So back in 2016 was when I was dealing with a lot of these issues. And for the longest time, I was always the only Black woman in these spaces, and I'm still am. And there was a hashtag that was happening on Twitter. It was called Black Women at Work. And it started, I believe, because the president said something about Senator Maxine Waters. I think that's what triggered it. And so this hashtag was going on Twitter. And for the first time, I was seeing Black women from all levels, from all walks of life, all income, all educational levels, talking about the same things, talking about, being gaslit, being disrespected, having your qualifications put into question, seeing less qualified white men and women being promoted over them. There was one woman, she said that she's a VP and she was confused for the janitor. Just seeing all these different stories. And it helped me realize that it wasn't just me, and that this problem is something that all Black women are facing. And that started my journey towards really coming into my own, owning who I am, setting boundaries, and then eventually creating what will become Blackness in the Workplace.
I am so happy for you. I continue to share these stories because there's somebody out there who is just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I don't understand why Bob got promoted and I have all these damn degrees.
Mm-hmm.
What happened, or what changed in your life? What new processes did you implement after you realized that has nothing to do with me?
Yeah, so I was working, so right before Blackness in the Workplace was born, I was working at a company called Harley Davidson. Like I said, I name dropped. And I had a really terrible experience there, even at the company prior to Harley Davidson. But Harley Davidson there was just a lot of things that was happening there. And eventually I was terminated. They gave me a severance, which was very interesting. It's a whole story behind that. But I got a severance, and I was only there literally a year. And they gave me a 12-week severance. And so I took that money and I took that summer off. And I said, okay, I need to sit down and figure out who am I, what I want to do, and how I'm going to move. And so some things came out of that. The first one was, I am not my job. And a job is just a job. And I used to subscribe to white ideas of professionalism for the longest time. I used to have my hair straightened. I was on LinkedIn. It was very sterile. My profile was very sterile. And so I said, I got to stop doing this because I need to embrace who I am. I'm a Black woman in these white spaces, and I can't let anyone, it is what it is. I can't let anyone take that away from me. So I have to embrace who I am. Also, I'm going to start centering myself and making my needs known and clear when it comes to my career. And that if I don't get it, I'm okay with walking away. And don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to say, look, if I'm not being respected, if I'm not being poured into and supported as I need to, there are always other options. And so I came out of that experience just ready to go. And so I started, Blackness in the Workplace started off as a blog. And I was just writing articles, still doing what I do, educating people, but really inserting more of my personality, my truth, being unapologetic about it. And then you started to see that transition with my LinkedIn, where I was no longer just writing, okay, this is how you write a cover letter. It was like, no, 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 no. Let's talk about what it means to be Black in the workplace. Let's talk about what it means to be a Black woman working with managers who you know you're more qualified than, but you got to report into. And so as I went on, I should start just being more real, putting my personality out there. And now it's second nature. You know, you read a post and you know it's my voice because it is my voice. And I'm filtered. My profile picture changed. I got cornrows now in my profile picture. I wear my hair like I just am who I am, and I've embraced that. And the right people will rock with you, and the wrong people will fall off, and I'm okay with that.
And I am okay with that. And I'm so happy for you. One of the things you talked about is being honest with yourself first and foremost. What my body type is different than the people you see in the professional magazines. My hair is different from, and being honest about that is crucial. There is whole systemic reasons as to why we lose ourselves in excuse me. And you said to subscribe to what white people say professionalism is. How are you fearless in unsubscribing? Like what, excuse me, who is supporting you in unsubscribing from these systems and these ideas of what professionalism is?
So I think that the ecosystem that has been created on LinkedIn has really helped with that. You have a lot of Black content creators, especially, who are challenging what it means to be professional, and really saying, hey, look, if you can wear tattoos openly as white people, I can wear my hair however I want. When we talk about, and it's also educating people, when we talk about Black hair, for example, this isn't just a fashion statement. This is culture. This is identity. You know, the way my hair grows out of my scalp, I have 4C hair, which, if you know, is very tightly coiled. That's the way it is. This is how God made me. If he wanted me to have straight blonde hair, I would have had that. And when we talk about Black hairstyles, hair braids and cornrows and all this is culture. And I'm not willing to hide my culture and diminish my culture for a paycheck. You know, I'm not willing to say, okay, I got to put all this poison in my hair to straighten it out so that you feel comfortable with me. I don't center white comfort anymore. That's what it means. I'm not here to make you feel comfortable with me. I'm not here to talk a certain way or not to hurt your feelings. What I am is what you get. And I really think LinkedIn and just the journey that I've been on and seeing this new wave of just, Black people, whether it's young or whatever, coming in and saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play that game no more.
And I love that you emphasize that this is culture. These are the cultures that we're bringing into the workplace. For you to ask us to assimilate into white culture is erasing our culture. We spend like 40 plus hours at work. So our culture is literally being erased if we're not able to express it in these workplaces. How else are you expressing your culture in the workplace?
Yeah, I will say too, Black hairstyles are the best on the planet, to be honest with you. I mean, Black people we have the most dynamic hairstyles, the most variety of any group of people on Earth. I get compliments all the time about my hair from everybody. So I'm just like, why would I not bring that into the workplace? But another thing about what I bring into the workplace is really talking about the Black experience in the workplace. I think it's important. Like, a lot of white coworkers and a lot of white people don't understand what it means to come into the workplace as a Black person. I can't take the skin off and hang it up and go sit at my desk and work. I can't do that. So I have to bring my identity and culture in. Like, it's like, for example, back in 2020, when George Floyd was murdered and all the Black Lives Matter stuff started popping off, like, that was very uncomfortable for me and other Black people, because what was happening was that you had white people coming up to me trying to get me to speak on behalf of Black America. Like, how do you feel about George Floyd? How do you feel about Black Lives Matter? Just the tone deafness of it all. And so in terms of bringing who I am in the workplace, it's really educating people. I think that's critical about the experiences, not just in the workplace. I don't even talk just about the workplace no more. Talk about the world, because the world comes into the workplace whether we like it or not.
And it is disheartening that Those white, I mean, in every workplace that happened, every single white person was like, oh my gosh, I know nothing about the Black people I'm surrounded by. Like, bitch, and why is that? Why is it now that Black murder is in your face that you are interested in the Black people you work with?
Yeah. I would add to that really quick. So one of the realities we have to understand is a lot of white people don't live and interact with Black people except at work. You know, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is a very segregated city, and that's not an exaggeration. And you have a lot of white people who are from the suburbs, and they only come into the city when it's time to work, and they go right back out. So they have their interaction with Black people is a very contained time between the hours of 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And so you're only seeing one version of ourselves in the workplace. You're not seeing the totality of what your Black coworkers are, because we have to, you know, obviously come into the workplace a certain way in order to be able to make a living. So when all this was going down, you had white people genuinely just didn't know what was going on.
Oh, hooray, white people. But
yeah,
thank you so much for being HR professional / educator at all times. Shout out to all the Black people that have to do that have to put that education, have to educate people in the workplace while doing their fucking job. What boundaries do you set around that education, or are you constantly giving out education to people in the workplace?
So here's the thing. I always say this: not every Black person should or need to educate. I really don't. I think we need to be careful with that, because you have white people who feel like it's my job to be their spiritual, like the Negro whisperer. They try. I'm like, I'm not that. I'm not here. Sometimes I'm here. Sometimes a job is just a job. And sometimes people are here to work, make their money, and go home. And I am 100% okay with that. At this point in the job that I'm in right now, I do that. I say my advocacy offline, but not everybody should. Not every Black person wants to be that person and needs to be that person. So when it comes to boundaries, it is okay to say, hey, look, Google is free, and I'm not in a position, nor am I comfortable educating you. And if you really are serious about learning about the Black experience, do a Google search, read some books, put in the work. You know, go to a BRG, a business resource group. Companies have those. Be more active. Don't expect me to waste my time and give you my mental, emotional labor for free. And it's okay to tell folks that. It's like, no, I'm not here to educate you. I'm here to work. Or I'm here to do what I gotta do. I think, again, that's just very lazy on the behalf of a lot of white people, where they just want you to just educate them. I tell people on LinkedIn all the time, there's a lot of great Black content creators, myself included. And if you really are serious, just follow us, read our posts, read to understand, and not to comment. Sometimes, you know, you have white people who read my posts and they'll try to comment, trying to question what it is that I'm saying. And I've had to tell white people, like, if you want to follow me, you're either going to be quiet or you're going to answer thoughtful questions. What you're not going to do is challenge me. What you're not going to do is question me or any other Black person, because this is not the space to do that.
There are so many people who happen to be white, and they believe that they are seeking to understand, but they're not. They're asking for you to do more work. Like, the content that we are producing, the conversation we're having right now is literally work. This is something we are producing so that you may educate yourself on the experiences that happen in the workplace. Thank you so much for explaining that to them, because I don't think they understand that. Like, they just do not. It's very strange.
They don't.
Okay, but earlier you talked about going above and beyond. I've seen it time and time again. Even in my childhood, I was told to go above and beyond. Like, that is something you will have to do. How are you constantly, or are you telling people to stop going above and beyond?
So my philosophy is funny, because everyone now is kind of adopting the philosophy that I've been preaching for some time. And so I have been saying for a long time, like, a job is just a job. Your job is not your identity. You can always switch jobs. There's no such thing as a job hopper. Do what you have to do. So all of these things are things that I've been preaching. But when it comes to, like, I know what it's like to pour a lot of yourself into your career, because I was raised and it's true, it's still true, where you have to work twice as hard to get half as far. I have an MBA, and then in my field, I have a PHR certification. I have a couple of certs back here. You can't see it with all the Star Trek stuff, but I have all these certifications, and I went out there and I got those because I knew that if I was to have a fighting chance in my career, you got to be overqualified as a Black person, because they're not going to let you into these jobs anyway, and they're not going to give you the grace that they will give a white man or a white woman. There's a lot of white mediocrity that exists within corporate America. There's people that I am working with right now that I consider mediocre, and I wouldn't have personally hired if I was the man. Just being real. But I tell people, do what you have to do. Do what you feel you have to, because there's still that prejudice that exists. And a lot of the Black women that I talk to especially are overqualified. They're like, they have their full-time job, they got a side business, they teach, they consult, they do a lot. And I talk to plenty of white women and they just work and go home. And yet they make the same, or they make as much money, or they the ones that get promoted because they know people. And I always tell people, white people are always giving grace in the workplace. A white woman could make a mistake. I made it when I was working at Harley Davidson. The reason why I'm not there no more, I made a very small mistake, a very minor mistake. Never mind the fact that I had won an award and got recognition prior to that, but it was a mistake that just spiraled out, and it ended up me losing my job. But I've had white people who have made egregious mistakes. Oh, it's a learning curve. That's what we call it for them, a learning curve. But we don't have that benefit. So I tell people, do what you have to do. If you feel like you need additional degrees and certifications, do what you have to do. But don't pay for it. Get your job to pay for it. I mean, if you want me to have all that, you gotta pay for it. Mm-hmm. So center yourself. Do what you need, what you feel you need to do.
I love that you're talking about the grace that is absent for Black people in the workplace. Please,
oh yeah.
I hope anybody who's listening to this, give it to yourself. Like, give that grace to yourself. You talked about earlier how you just like, I guess it's me. Like, I guess I'm not good at my job. I guess that train starts rolling and you immediately like, okay, I'm not good enough. I can't continue to do this. What practices do you have in place now, like personally in your life, or any affirmations that you tell yourself to remember that you are worth more and that you need to center yourself daily?
I have rebuilt my relationship, my spiritual relationship with God. I know some people ain't religious, and that's fine, but I really rebuilt that, and that has really made me a lot healthier. I also have a life outside of my job. So my identity is not my job. I don't come home and be like, oh my God, like I leave it at work. Like when it's time to go home, or when the work is over with, working from home, I log off and I move on. Also it took a while, but I had to realize that I am actually very good at this. When you look at side by side my comparisons and my qualifications with the people that I've worked with, it's no question that it is good. I've been told that, I know that. And so you have to remind yourself that, yeah, you are good. I mean, I have people now coming to me asking for help, looking at how I do things. And so they know, and it's important to notice too, they know that you're good at what you do. And they know that you are, they know that you have what it takes. What they are hoping is that you don't know it. And I had to learn that. They don't want you to know your own power and your own strength, which is why they gaslight you and disrespect you and got you questioning yourself. Because if you know that you are the shit, if you know that you got what it takes, then you are unstoppable. It's like the saying that they say that you never want the lion to know his own strength, because then you can't do anything about it. That's exactly how they treat you. And it's important to realize that you are qualified and capable of doing anything that you want to do. That's why they didn't let us learn to read and write when we were slaves, because they understood that once someone becomes educated and get access, that you can't take away knowledge. You can't take away someone's ability to learn. But you can, put barriers in the way. But once someone knows how to read and write, and once someone knows their worth, there's nothing you can do then.
Mm. And, you know, so many guests on this show have talked about access to education and access to information, like about boundaries and self-worth, and just knowing that what abusive means, or gaslighting. The fact that we are not taught this from like a very young age, what abusive behavior looks like, and emotional abuse is telling of the systems that are in place.
Mhm.
I have been in workplaces that have told me, no, that's not what bullying is. Just people touching my hair, or people telling me that I need to change my appearance. That's not what bullying is. Have you ever encountered that? People trying to like redefine words that you already know the definitions of?
Yeah, I mean, I had a manager, an HR manager at a company, not Harley. It was before that. She was one of the worst managers I've ever had. And so and she was the problem. And even if I was to talk to her about, hey, this manager, he's been really disrespectful to me. I'm trying to get things done. He's not letting me. She just has such an issue where it's like, oh, you're being overly sensitive, or you're looking into things the wrong way. And it can be really, really frustrating when it's coming from your manager, or coming from someone that you need to have your back. And for me, I had to get out of there. I had to get out of that job. And sometimes you have to, but then there are people who can't always move and can't always quit jobs and stuff like that. I always make sure when I give advice is to understand that everybody ain't coming from the same place. And then the question becomes, how do I protect myself in the workplace? And I've spoken on that as well. Like, how do I protect myself with these crazy white folks who are about to drive me crazy? And there's ways to do it. I have my ways, some people have theirs. But I tell people, establishing, boundaries, keeping receipts, all those things can help you when it comes to protecting yourself.
And like, I cannot thank you enough for even those small tips. Like, somebody is probably like, I'm right, let me write this down. And it's something that's the extra labor of being Black in the workplace.
Yep.
It's like, white people are not CCing themselves to the person. I CC myself for everything.
Yep, me too.
And I have to write down, like, this is what Bob did this. White people do not have to do that. And they're not understanding, like, I don't understand. You're not in a different workplace than me. I am. I'm literally in a different workplace than you.
Yeah. When it comes to receipts, I always tell Black people, you are not given the benefit of the doubt. Black people are almost, regardless whether it's criminal work, is always guilty until proven innocent. And so you have to keep documentation. And I've had people message me all the time and saying, Jessica, I'm having issues in the workplace. Can you help me? This is going on, whatever. And I say to them, what documentation are you keeping? How are you protecting yourself in the workplace? Oh, I'm not. And a lot of times people just don't know how. And when you said CC, I am like, if anybody, I can do a whole episode on just how to keep receipts in the workplace. But I would just say this: what you want to start doing is from the first day you get in, keep documentation. CC emails, BBC emails to yourself, whether it's taking off vacation, performance reviews, recording conversations discreetly. Oh boy, I can really go into there, but my advice is don't wait until things go bad. You want to start from the very beginning. Oftentimes people get caught up and they'll say, oh, my manager is really nice, or my coworker is really nice, and things sort of went south. But what you want to do is start from the beginning, because if you keep enough documentation, it tells the story for you. And that was why I was able to get the severance that I got at Harley, because I had so much documentation and they did not want that trauma with me coming out and saying, hey, this is what I have. So protect yourself in the work, and don't feel guilty about it. Be unapologetic about it. You can be discreet. You don't want everyone to know, but just don't feel guilty if you feel like you got to forward email or record a conversation. Do what you have to do. And I do share examples. Oh, sorry for interrupting. I do share great examples of that. To drive home my point too.
And we talked about this earlier. Like, you can pretend that you're not, like, I'm not Black, or I'm good. Like, they love me here, and like, The truth will, like, being honest with yourself will eventually come out. Like, you are different than the people in that workplace, and they see it, you acknowledging it and putting in processes to keep yourself safe is so very important.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing these tips and everything. I know that there's somebody who's listening to this and probably thinking, okay, I'm going to start keeping myself safe, but they're probably afraid to do so. What would be the top 3 tips you would share with them about starting to keep themselves safe in the workplace?
Yeah, first one is recognition, is understanding that you don't have friends in the workplace. I work in human resources, and I have to tell people, a job is not a family, your manager is not your friend, your coworker is not your friend. So you really gotta be comfortable understanding that. And number 2, things happen. And so I had a manager who I thought was great. People change and things change. Even if it's not necessarily a manager who is not out to get you, things happen. And so you have to be able to put in systems in place that protects you, whether it's setting boundaries or just making sure that you're collecting documentation, whatever that is. You just got to make sure you're protecting yourself and your coin and your reputation. So important. You got to make sure you're doing that. And 3, like I said, don't feel bad about it. It's nothing personal. I tell people it's nothing personal. It is just business. You have to protect your bag. You have to protect your professional reputation. And that's the way to do it. And to understand that in the workplace, it's just a bunch of people coming together working. This is not friends and family or none like that. Don't feel guilty. So those are the 3 things I would tell people. That is how you set boundaries and also how you protect yourself. You know, too often people are like, my manager was really cool and then he's not. It's like you gotta understand that they're gonna put themselves before they put themselves first before they put you. I mean, if it's their job or yours, trust and believe it's gonna be you. And you're not giving grace and respect as a Black person in the workplace. You're not giving that. You know, Black person can make a mistake, then it's all Black people. Or, you know, you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing, and it can really backfire. And I've had that happen to me. So I always talk about my own truth when I give examples. I'm an open book. I talk about what happened to me.
I can't thank you enough for sharing those amazing tips. I know people are going to hear that and probably be like, okay, it starts tomorrow. This is what I'm going to do. These are the boundaries I'm going to set. So I can't thank you enough. Are there any last minute sprinkles you'd like to share with the audience before we go?
Yeah, I would tell people, if you don't know, if you're looking for a support system and you're looking where to start, because that was something that I struggled with. I didn't have a lot of Black women in person around me, the network, and, you know, social media has been great for that. I always tell people, if you want to connect with me or follow me, go ahead. I'm very well plugged into the space. So there's a lot of content that I share and people that I like to put on. So start there. I always say, you know, you can go to blacknessintheworkplace.com. There are blogs and articles that I've written that go into much more detail about a lot of different subjects, from when it's time to leave your job, how to protect yourself from a manager who's trying to throw you under the bus, all those different things. And also, when I put content on LinkedIn, I'm very thoughtful about what I put out there, even the dumb memes sometimes I post. So it is a labor of love, but I do that because I want to make sure that people have resources and have a system where they feel supported and nurtured. And I don't pander. I don't try to stroke nobody's ego. I try to be as honest as I can be. So I highly recommend that if you want to connect with me, blacknessintheworkplace.com. We're on all the social media channels. So that's where you'll get a lot of really great content.
And even that was a lot of gems right there, because social media is another way to find a support system. Social media is another way to find the resources that you need. And you were just given a million resources. So please go visit Blackness in the Workplace, because it sounds like an invaluable resource that I could have used years ago.
Yeah, I wish I would have had it when I was coming up too. So.
Right. See, and this is exactly the type of work we love to continue to do. So thank you so much for being here today. If you love the conversation that you heard today, please leave a review. And until next time, keep setting those boundaries, and we'll see you next time on Absolutely Not. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Absolutely Not. Your support means the world to me. You can always further support the show by leaving a review or visiting the Support the Mission page on my website, www.katrinastroll.com. My website is also where you can register for upcoming live episodes, watch amazing past episodes of Absolutely Not, and buy Absolutely Not merch. Yay! Until next time, keep setting those boundaries and saying absolutely not to anything unaligned. See you next time.